Did you know that Cleopatra lived closer in time to the moon landing than to the construction of the Great Pyramid? That's right. The Great Pyramid of Giza was completed around 2560 BC, while Cleopatra reigned in the 1st century BC. This means that when she was alive, the pyramids were already ancient, over 2,500 years old. Speaking of ancient times, let's talk about the Roman Empire. At its height, it was so vast that it covered parts of 3 continents: Europe, Africa, and Asia. But here's the kicker. The Romans had a form of postal service that was incredibly advanced for its time. They used mounted couriers to deliver messages across the empire. And they even had a system of way stations to ensure that letters could travel up to 50 miles a day. Imagine sending a letter and having it arrive in a week, all without modern technology. Now let's jump to the Middle Ages. You might think of knights and castles, but did you know that during this time, there was a practice called trial by combat? If 2 parties had a dispute, they could settle it by fighting each other, and the winner would be deemed right. This bizarre practice was based on the belief that God would favor the righteous, so the outcome was seen as divine judgment. Talk about putting your life on the line for a disagreement. Fast forward to the 19th century, and we find ourselves in the midst of the Industrial Revolution. One of the most mind-blowing inventions of this era was the safety elevator, invented by Elisha Otis. Before this, elevators were dangerous and often fatal. Otis demonstrated his invention at the 1854 World's Fair by cutting the cable of a working elevator, and it didn't fall. This innovation made skyscrapers possible, transforming city skylines forever. Now, let's take a moment to appreciate the bizarre world of ancient medicine. In the 16th century, doctors believed that the human body was governed by 4 humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. To treat ailments, they would often resort to bloodletting, where they would intentionally drain blood from a patient. This practice continued for centuries, even though it often did more harm than good. Imagine going to the doctor and leaving with less blood than you arrived with. As we near the end of our journey through unbelievable history, let's not forget about the Great Emu War in Australia in 1932. Yes, you heard that right. The Australian government waged a war against emus, large flightless birds that were damaging crops. Armed soldiers with machine guns were deployed, but the emus proved to be surprisingly elusive. In the end, the birds won, and the military had to retreat. It's a wild reminder that sometimes nature has the upper hand. If you're enjoying these unbelievable facts, take a moment to like this video. It really helps us out. Now, let's dive into some more astonishing history. Did you know that in 1815, Mount Tambora erupted in Indonesia, causing what is known as the year without a summer? The eruption was so powerful that it released ash into the atmosphere, leading to global climate anomalies. Crops failed across the northern hemisphere, and it even contributed to the creation of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, as writers were stuck indoors due to the cold and gloomy weather. Talk about a volcanic impact on literature. As we wrap up, remember that history is filled with incredible stories and surprising twists. If you found these facts fascinating, share this video with your friends and leave a comment about which fact blew your mind the most.